China is the largest importer of soybeans in the world. They import 61% of the world's market. Last year, we sent around 12 billion, I think $14 billion worth of soybeans the year before. For the first time in 20 years, China's bought zero soybeans and zero new crop corn out of this country.
Do the farmers who voted for Donald Trump this second go around, do they deserve to go bankrupt because they put him back in office for a second time? And the reason we kind of ask this question is because in Donald Trump's first term, he started similar trade wars that had very negative impacts on the agriculture industry. So much so, in fact, that we had to bail out our farmers to the tune of $29 billion. And then when he was running for a second term, Donald Trump was promising even more extreme tariffs. And so now we've got these farmers all across the country who are really having to bear the brunt of these terrible policy decisions. And so I've kind of been keeping my eye on this story as we move into harvest season, and I just came across some numbers that really, truly, and honestly shocked me. Because we are talking about billions upon billions of dollars that our farmers could lose out on, all because Donald Trump has no idea what the hell he was doing. Now, one of those farmers that we heard from last week was a guy by the name of Scott Brown. And for those that need a quick reminder, here he is saying that a bailout is needed right now if these farmers have any chance of surviving. If you guys do appreciate my work and want to support the show, please do remember to subscribe.
In the short term, they have no choice but to mail us a check. I don't know a farmer that likes the check program. Nobody wants to take taxpayer dollars, but nobody wants to go broke. Nobody wants to lose everything. Long term, we have to have options, markets, and places to sell our product.
And look, guys, to be completely honest with you, I feel for these people. I don't want these farmers to have to go bankrupt. I don't want these farmers to have to lose their 6th or 7th or 8th generation farm. That would be absolutely terrible. But we are now finding ourselves in kind of the same predicament that we found ourselves in Donald Trump's first term, because Donald Trump came into office and decided that he was going to start these trade wars all across the world. And to just kind of give you an idea of how this is impacting our soybean market, here is that same Scott Brown going over our relationship with China and how it relates to soybeans.
Tell me about what's happening with your farm.
Well, we've got a real disaster with this tariff deal. I mean, we produce 40% more agricultural products in this country than we can consume domestically. 1 in every 4 rows of soybeans in every field in the entire United States of America has to go abroad. China is the largest importer of soybeans in the world. They import 61% of the world's market. Last year, we sent around 12 billion, I think $14 billion worth of soybeans the year before. For the first time in 20 years, China's bought zero soybeans and zero new crop corn out of this country.
Zero?
So we went from 12 billion to zero.
That is just absolutely insane. How are these farmers supposed to survive, soybean farmers at least, when you are going from $12 billion that China normally purchases to a big fat zero? And all because Donald Trump came in and started these trade wars that did not need to happen. And what people really kind of forget is that, you know, when Donald Trump comes into office and puts on these tariffs, these other countries, they retaliate. And then you make us less competitive on the global market. And as he said here, we grow 41% more than we can actually consume here in the United States. So we have to have access to global markets to make these businesses even feasible for these farmers. And to just kind of give you a little bit more numbers on the soybean trade, here's a little clip on that.
But despite a strong planting season, the price of soybeans nationally has taken a hit. One factor, due to the ongoing trade dispute, the Chinese government has instructed its importers to avoid purchasing U.S. soybeans.
You know, our major export commodity, our number one agricultural commodity is soybeans.
China imports an average of 61% of the world's traded soybeans, including over a fifth of U.S. exports.
At this time of year, typically China is purchasing for delivery in the fall. They haven't done that yet, and so there's a lot of concern in farm country about whether or not those exports will materialize.
The crop was also targeted in previous trade disputes with China. In 2018, China imposed retaliatory tariffs on soybeans. That dispute cost U.S. agriculture $27 billion, with soybeans accounting for 71% of those annualized losses.
And so this is really important, guys. When Donald Trump comes into office and he puts on these tariffs, we think about how that's going to impact us, like, kind of on the front end. If you have to buy packing materials to package your crops, you might have increases in prices there. If you've got tariffs on aluminum and steel, your farming equipment is going to get more expensive because those manufacturers are going to pass that cost off to you. But what a lot of people forget is that countries retaliate. And that is exactly what China did. When he came in and implemented those tariffs against China, which are paid by American companies, by the way, China turned around and said, okay, well, we're going to slap you with tariffs as well. So when you include like the VAT taxes and the tariffs, and I think there's one other fee, farmers are now at a 35% or so price increase because they got those tariffs from China. So Donald Trump has literally made our farmers less competitive on the global stage because he just doesn't understand how any of this works. He thought he could come into office and be some sort of badass, but he's just hurting our farmers. And we knew that this was going to happen because in Donald Trump's first term, this is exactly what he did. And Scott Brown shows you just how bad, or kind of tells you just how bad the impacts were in his first term.
You see, we lost 42% of our market share in the first tariff war. In Trump's first tariff war, the Chinese went to buying their soybeans from Brazil. They invested billions of dollars in Brazilian infrastructure. They have moved into Africa, and they're going to commercially farm in Africa. Since we left with USAID, they moved their Belt and Road program into Africa. So we've pretty much lost the Chinese market share. If we got 100% of the soybean business, Katie, for every country in the world except for Brazil and Argentina, we would still only have half the soybean business that China is.
So just to recap, what he is saying is even if we gobbled up all of the market share from every other country besides China, we would only get about half of what China used to purchase, which means no matter which way you slice the pie, these farmers are going to have a shitload of soybeans that they can't move because China is no longer buying from our agriculture industry because Donald Trump came into office and put on these tariffs. And so what does that do? There is even more downstream effects from that, because if you've got these farmers in the United States who can now no longer sell to places like China, and then they have to compete with this abundance of soybeans, there's more supply than there is demand. What does that do? It makes the prices of the soybeans drop. Just like that chart that we looked at said, the prices are now going down because we are at a competitive disadvantage to the rest of the world. Now China is buying all of their soybeans from down in Brazil because Brazil doesn't have to worry about those extra tariffs imposed by China that were all spurred on by Donald Trump's stupid trade war. And so these farmers are in dire, dire straits. They are now asking for another bailout like we did in Donald Trump's first term. But as Scott Brown describes, that really doesn't fix the problem.
Last time Donald Trump had these tariffs, he gave farmers a leg up. He inserted money back into agriculture. If he were to do that again, how much money would he need to inject into the farm industry?
This time, at current market figures in the fall for delivery and the current average yield, a cotton farmer is going to lose $375 an acre for every acre of cotton he planted. A corn farmer is going to lose $220 an acre for every acre of corn he planted. A bean farmer is going to lose $120 an acre for every acre he planted. So you're talking last time it was between $105 an acre and $75 an acre. This time I'd say to take $150 or $200 an acre to square everybody up. But that doesn't fix the problem. Because if you don't get us some market share and get us someplace to sell the product and get countries that actually want American agricultural products, then we're going to be in this mess again next year because we're going to put another crop in the ground that's below cost of production. We have to have overseas trade.
So what he is saying here is really important, guys. In the first term, we did farmer bailouts that reached about $29 billion. I was kind of digging around for what that might look like this go around, and it's anywhere between $30 and $60 billion that would kind of make our farmers whole this year alone. But that doesn't fix the problem. If we don't open up these export markets back up, if we don't open up the global trade like it used to be, we are just going to be in the same place this time next year. Donald Trump has done irreparable damage to our agriculture industry because he thought he could come be some sort of badass and start fights all around the world. He started treating our allies like they were our enemies. He started tariffing people because he didn't like the way certain criminal matters went in some of their courts. He is not looking out for the American people. He is not looking out for the American farmer. And that's why what I'm about to show you next is just so disheartening, because Scott Brown is asked about what kind of, how does this play in politics, really? Now, luckily, Scott Brown didn't vote for Donald Trump, but here's what he had to say about other buddies in the industry have to say about Trump now.
What's this doing politically? A lot of farmers voted for Donald Trump. I know you're not one of them, but what's it doing politically? Are they still set on Trump and his leadership?
I've got buddies that say you have to trust him. I have buddies that just cannot do the left side of things, and that's where they're at. But now I went to the farm show in Decatur, and I met a lot of guys that farm up north that sings a lot different song than they sung 7 months ago or 8 months ago.
I mean, that's just really sad and devastating to me. You've got people who have been kicked in the ribs over and over and over and over again, and they're looking up at the guy who's kicking them, and they're like, yeah, we got to trust him. He's going to pull it out, guys. He's going to take care of us. Everything's going to be okay. I mean, what else can we call this besides being in a cult? How can you get abused over and over and over again and then say, yeah, we need to trust the abuser? I just find this so damn sad. Now, we talk about in kind of on the conceptual level about how people vote against their interests all of the time, and maybe some of those topics are a little ambiguous, maybe they're a little bit opaque. But for this particular issue, there is a straight through line directly to Donald Trump and his stupid policies. He did this his first go around. He started these trade wars that had huge consequences for the agriculture industry. And now he got into office for a second time after he promised that he was going to do this again, and he's doing it again. And you've got a lot of these farmers, because they have been so indoctrinated into the MAGA cult, and they have attached their politics to their identity. I mean, even if you didn't want to vote for Trump, didn't want to vote for Kamala Harris, why not just vote at all? If you knew the guy was going to come in and he was going to impact or inflict pain upon you again, my brain doesn't compute how these people go into the voting booth and vote for Donald Trump again. And now we've got farmers all across the country, whether they voted for Trump or not, who are in dire straits right now, because we have these trade wars that didn't need to happen. So we will definitely be keeping an eye on it, guys. Like I said, I think we're right about in harvest season. China still doesn't have any orders on the books to buy these farmers' soybeans. And it looks like these farmers will need a bailout, or they're going to go belly up. They don't have anywhere else to turn. A lot of these people have already taken up the equity in their farms. A lot of these people very well could go bankrupt. And what happens after that? We have these big conglomerates that rush in and they buy these family plots for pennies on the dollar. It's what happened in Donald Trump's first term, and it looks like it might happen again. So it is sad. It was predictable. And like I said before, guys, is the fuck around and find out philosophy a bit too harsh? Because when somebody hurts you the first time and then you turn around and run back to them, shouldn't you anticipate getting hurt again? I'll leave it there for now, guys. I won't ramble on. I'm just so dumbfounded by how some people are motivated to go vote for Donald Trump a second time. And this one in particular, I'm just flabbergasted by the whole thing. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We've got to build something here on the left that pushes back against this MAGA media machine that just launders all of these terrible policy decisions by Donald Trump day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. If you guys want to go a step above and beyond that and actually help me produce these videos, you can become a member right here on YouTube for as little as $3 a month, or you can jump over to politiscape.substack.com where you can have my content delivered directly to your inbox every single day without the doom scrolling, without the algorithmic bullshit that we have to deal with on these platforms. And until next one, guys, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one.